Hi, how's it going? It's Michael Redmond here. Now, you may well know me as a stand-up comedian, which I actually was for over 30 years. Or you might know me better as Father Stone from the Channel 4 sitcom Father Ted. And if that happens to be the case and you're still wondering how I am after all these years, well, I'm still fine. So what am I doing here? Well, I've kind of retired from stand-up, but I keep coming up with, the odd idea for a joke or a comedy monologue or a comedy routine and that kind of thing because, to be honest with you, I quickly realised that taking up gardening in retirement wasn't going to satisfy me enough. It wasn't going to do it for me. Jesus, gardening, And anyway, I don't have a garden, which is probably why I was often found standing in other people's gardens over the years. So what's this all about? Well, this is my comedy podcast, which I've called "What Are You Doing in My Garden?" I suppose the best way to describe it is it's a short weekly podcast in which I'll be, throwing in a joke or two or talking about a range of things from, say, drink driving in Ireland in the 1970s, my chance encounter with Joanna Lumley, pole vaulting geriatrics, and lots of other things. But no poetry. Absolutely no bloody poetry. So if you have anything to say or add to what I've been musing on the podcast, it'd be great to hear from you. Or in fact, also if you have any questions about Father Ted, I'd be happy to answer them as well. The email address for the podcast is whatdoyoudoinmygarden@gmail.com. Hi, how's it going? And welcome back to What Are You Doing in My Garden? And thanks once again to all of you who've downloaded the episodes and listened to them as well. And we're already on to episode 11, which is fantastic, in which I'm going to be talking about moving statues of the Virgin Mary back in Ireland in the day, and also a Belgian Jesus. Before I do that, though, before I get into the meat of the episode, I'm going to be talking about biscuits and the Euros. No, not necessarily related, but if you listened to last week's episode, I was talking about a little story about where I had my son Jamie over in my flat a couple of days before we recorded the episode. And we had us both a cup of tea, and I brought in a plate of biscuits, which happened to be fig rolls. And he sort of looked at them and started laughing, saying, "Fig rolls are old man's biscuits." Didn't you, Jamie?
Yeah, well, it all stemmed from a conversation I had with a guy from work.
Yeah, what was that?
As in Kapow in Glasgow, where I work as a chef.
Damn good chef you are, has to be said.
Thank you. So yeah, it was me and a middle-aged man called Stephen were discussing it. He was bigging up fig rolls, and I said, "Well, I've eaten a fig roll, but I don't really enjoy them because I think they're more of an old man's biscuit." Right. It's something I hadn't really put much thought into before about how you can have age-based biscuits.
Indeed,
but he was backing them up, and I said complete opposite. And then when you brought them through, I was saying, "Well, yeah."
So that happened before. That was just a coincidence that I brought in fig rolls that day.
Yeah, we'd had the same conversation a couple of weeks beforehand.
Okay. So okay then, when did you first taste a fig roll? Have you actually tasted a fig roll, or you just decided that they're old man's biscuits by the look of them?
I think I have tasted one once.
Okay, well I'm going to put you on the spot then.
Couldn't give you a date.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, all right then.
You have to taste a fig roll biscuit on the podcast. Okay?
All right then.
And also these are the favorite biscuits of the ancient Egyptians, and ancient Egyptians knew what they were talking about when it came to biscuits. I can tell you.
Right.
Okay, so my son Jamie is going to. He at least he has the bravery to sample a fig roll biscuit as we're on the.
We'll do a bit of it ASMR then. All right.
No idea what that means, but never mind. Crunching into the microphone. Well, while he's eating that, I should tell you, we will be talking about the Euros later on in the episode.
Extremely dry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most biscuits are dry. Most biscuits don't hydrate you, do they?
It tastes like my granddad's slippers.
You've tasted your granddad's slippers.
Well,
I
can't remember the exact date that I tried it for the first time, but it also reminds me of medieval dates, which is also a very old man biscuit, which I personally think tastes like leather. But
medieval dates aren't biscuits, though.
No, they're not biscuits. No,
I hope not. Anyway, because I've been eating them for ages. But I also suggest
it's an old man's confectionery.
An old man's confectionery.
I'll just stick this in the ashtray, I think.
Okay, take your time. That is a travesty. Sticking a fig roll in an ashtray.
I'm still chewing it.
But I've made a list of biscuits, so I'm going to sort of do a little quiz for you, okay?
All right then.
So first we go with Garibaldi biscuits. How would you associate them? Old person, middle-aged person, young person?
Oh, definitely old. I've never tried one.
You've never tried one?
I looked it up the other day after you mentioned it, and I looked old. I think the picture was actually in black and white.
I can kind of accept maybe Garibaldi's might be an old man's biscuit. I can kind of go with that. So you want to try one?
Do a wee bit more ASMR then.
Yeah. What is ASMR anyway?
I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it means basically chewing into a microphone.
All right. Do you know what it means? ASMR. Oh, there we go. Garibaldi.
Fucking hell. There we go.
If you thought the last one was dry.
I need a pint of water after this.
You did also mention I'll just talk while you're doing your ASMR.
I don't think I'll be able to speak after it. Is that dry?
But I mentioned that when you suggested there were old man's biscuits, maybe supermarkets should have separate shelves for old person's biscuits, another shelf for middle-aged person's biscuits, and another shelf for young man's biscuits.
Yeah, well, I think the world would be a better place if you did.
In general.
Yeah.
And you also suggested it should have medical prescriptions on it as well.
Yeah.
The old man's.
Yeah, we could keep them in the same section as the prescriptions, so the old people know what they're doing when they go to the supermarkets. If they get confused, we've got a big sign just sorted right in the corner.
My son, who I brought up very well.
Just make sure you don't put any stairs or they'll end up having a heart attack at the top of them.
Any what, sorry?
Make sure there isn't any stairs leading up to them.
No,
there
wouldn't be a
heart
stairs.
attack.
That would be a bit obscure.
Well.
Stairs leading up to a supermarket shelf. Right, next one. Viennese whirls. What would you say about them?
I don't know. Could be a bit of a mix there.
Well, I would say that they're granny biscuits, but not just granny biscuits. The granny biscuits if granny has a visitor.
Yeah. You might dish them out.
Especially for the visitors.
Yeah, well, I've never tried one, but it's a first
I actually don't have any Viennese whirls with me. On that one. So you just have to imagine what they're like.
Yeah.
But I mentioned it also in the episode that was what sort of it came to in the end. Talking about the Figaros, that my favourite biscuit of all time that I finally found in Britain after 35 years was chocolate Kimberley. Have you ever tasted them?
I can't say I have, no.
Well, sure.
I mean, chocolate could always be, that could definitely be a young man's biscuit.
Well,
that could be a bit of a mutual one.
They're my favourite biscuit of all time, so if you dismiss that as an old man's biscuit, I think I might come over and turn the podcast off.
Well, it's got the exterior of a Tonics tea cake. So
okay, sort of, yeah, but it's not the same texture.
And let's just hope it's not as dry because I'm still chewing that fig.
Do you want some water?
No,
you can take a break for some water if you want.
No, it's alright, I'll have a drink of beer.
Fair enough. Do I hear a positive?
A lot less dry.
I think I did a critique of biscuits.
A nice ginger tinge to it. Yeah, quite pleasant.
Yeah?
Yep.
Good, okay, so we're at one on the chocolate Kimberleys.
Getting some ground here, yeah.
Good, we're getting places.
Gaining ground. I'd eat another one.
Yeah?
Yep.
I only have one left, so you're not fucking getting one.
I'm just saying.
You would.
Potentially.
All things being equal, you would have one. Jammy Dodgers.
I like a Jammy Dodger, yeah.
So do I, though. So I like a Jammy Dodger. Are you suggesting that we shouldn't be
just saying that to fit in?
No, I can assure you I would not say that just to fit in or agree with you. If I thought they were crap.
Well, I know you well, so.
Hopefully after 24 years you have a fair idea of what I'm about.
Yeah, you're alright. Yep.
I think
give it a solid 6.8.
6.8 out of 10. That's very, very precise.
Nearly 7. Well, not quite 7.
Okay, well, I'll accept that for the time being.
Alright then.
I will accept it. I'll accept a 6.8.
Yeah, no, I believe you.
Good, okay. Oreo, I think you mentioned Oreos would be a young man's biscuit.
Yeah, that's definitely a young man's biscuit. Yeah. I used to eat them on my break at school quite a lot.
Because that's one my other syndicate, or your brother, in fact. Who you know.
Yeah, I know them as well.
I don't have to explain.
Known him for 24 years, funnily enough, as well.
Indeed. He also said about Figaros that he doesn't remember any having a Figaro snack when he was at school. They're definitely a da snack.
It's a da snack. Yeah.
He wasn't quite as offensive as you saying old man snack. He was a bit more gentle, saying it was just a da snack.
Yeah. Well, his da, as you say, is an old man, so
as
it's basically the same thing.
Just in case viewers or listeners are confused, you both have the same father. Yeah, as far as I know.
I thought I was off the postman, but
Well, no, I think
I've been led to believe.
No, I think it was more just adoption, really.
Oh, right, okay. Still waiting for the certificate and that one.
So we've covered some ground. We've reached sort of some kind of agreement, I think,
Yeah.
on the biscuit front. I'll accept that as a draw, I think.
I would call it a treaty.
A treaty, yeah, treaty's been about.
A ceasefire.
Yeah, ceasefire, yeah.
And the biscuits.
Now, I think that's covered the biscuit thing, but we were going to talk about the Euros. As this is going out, by the way, we're just recording it before the English match, so England and Slovakia, so I don't know the result. But yeah, you were over in making signs to me. I don't know what the fuck that's meant to be. But you were over in Germany with both Nicky and my other son Johnny.
I was, yeah.
So what did you think of this? Is your first time at a Euros or a World Cup final?
Yeah, well, personally, throughout my lifetime, so I was born in 1999, which means.
Well, I know that, by the way.
Yeah. I just
remember
double
it well.
checking. 24 years ago, roughly. Yeah, well, so I'd never experienced Scotland playing in big scale tournament other than Euro 2020, because the last one they qualified before that was 1998.
So you weren't even alive.
Just about a year before my birth. Yeah, it was barely a thought in your head.
1988 is more than a year before your birth.
No, it was a year. I was born in 1999, so.
You said 1988 though.
Yeah, it was a tournament.
1988 must have been 1998.
1998, yeah. Did I say 88?
Yeah.
Alright, okay. That's misleading.
The old man's brain is still ticking over.
I'm just making sure. This is all just a big test for your Alzheimer's. So yeah, but it was good. We all went over to London for the Euro 2020, which had been delayed a year because of COVID.
Yeah.
But that wasn't quite the same as this year because
No.
obviously there was a lot of restrictions and which meant everyone just ended up being in the middle of Leicester Square, which also led to more COVID because everyone came home with it because we were all quite tight knit, I would say.
You're quite what?
Tight knit. Everyone was quite.
Tight-knit,
So that led to even more disease. But this year was a lot better. I didn't come back with any diseases actually.
Good. Well, that's a plus.
It's always a positive when you come back from.
But was it really exciting though? I mean, I know Scotland were
a bit shy.
dropped in the first
Scottish.
match. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great fun going over. There was a big bunch of us, so it was great fun. Apart from the €80 taxi, which wasn't the best.
What was that €80 taxi from where?
Well, so I was a bit drunk and got a bit confused when I was in the taxi. So we were staying in the Ibis Hotel, but turns out there's actually more than one of them in Munich.
I had a similar experience once.
Yeah, so I said to him, yeah, just drop me off at the Ibis Hotel, and obviously went to the first one the Google Maps told him to go to, and then we followed suit with another 2 Ibis hotels.
You did a tour of Ibis Hotel?
We did the tour of Munich, but it was pitch black and there was no red bus, so it wasn't that exciting. And then we finally got back to my actual hotel, and my phone ran out of charge, so I couldn't actually pay for the taxi. That's happened to you a few times over the years, I think. Yeah. I couldn't actually pay for the taxi, so the driver told me to go into the shop and buy a charger, but in my inebriation I couldn't quite work out which one was an iPhone charger, so I couldn't pay, and I didn't know my PIN because that was also on my phone and my notes. So I tried my PIN 3 times and I got locked out of my bank account, which then led me back to the taxi, and I told them, listen mate, I've tried my absolute best, but I can't pay for this taxi. And I said, do you trust me? And he said, yeah, I trust you. So I was like, alright, I'll transfer it then. So he wrote down his details.
Did you understand your English totally? Was it?
Yeah. Cool. Well, he wasn't from Germany as well, so
he was for Paisley.
He was for Johnston.
The only Paisley taxi driver in Munich.
In the village. So he just had to write down his details on a sheet of paper, and I did eventually transfer it to him on my way home.
Good job, cool.
Yeah, because I watched a lot of My Name Is Earl, so.
You what?
I've watched a lot of My Name Is Earl.
My Name Is Earl?
Yeah, the TV show where
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, well, he works on karma, so he goes goes
so
back and rights all his
that?
wrongs. So I was like, I don't want to get fucked by that, basically. So so I transferred them the money.
That was good.
We went our separate ways.
So you went to the fan zone in Munich for the first match?
I did, yes. Yeah.
Was that an amazing atmosphere?
Well, we waited about 2 hours for a beer in the queue.
Well, someone said that there was only one barman at the whole place or something. Is that true?
Well, there was about 2 or 3, but one of them was just standing there doing nothing.
Right.
So he was the soft drinks guy, but there wasn't a lot of soft drinks going out. Quite a lot of beer getting consumed rather than soft drinks. So I think they kind of had their priorities.
You think the Germans, a big lager drinking nation, do you think they would know not to,
You would think they'd be set up for that sort of thing, especially with the Scots coming over. But
they do Oktoberfest every year as well.
Exactly, yeah, they know their beers.
Yeah.
But so I left the fan zone to go and get a beer from the stall, which was outside of it.
Was this at half time?
This was well before the game, because we arrived there about 2 p.m.
Oh, right, okay.
and the game was at 9, so this was about 5:30 or 6.
Bit of a build up. 7 hours.
Yeah. We were just watching Gary Neville for 7 hours straight, so it's really exciting. So I left the vicinity to go and grab a beer from outside, and by the time I'd returned, they'd cordoned it all off, so I couldn't get back in, so that just left me stranded.
So you didn't see any of the match from the fan zone?
No, I didn't see a
and why would they not let you back in?
Well, they just cordoned it off. I think it maybe got too busy because the actual Germans had arrived. Because it became more German than Scottish at one point.
Did it? They arrived late, that's unlike the Germans.
Well, maybe they had like stuff like work and stuff, and like everyone else, it was just drinking from 7 in the morning till midnight.
So what happens when you try to get back in?
Well, I just got cordoned off, and there was a big fence, and the women wouldn't let me back in. So I started taking pictures of her, and I was telling her I was going to inform her, the people she worked for, which is obviously just the police. So I've just got a big gallery of photos of this large female policewoman on my phone now.
Well, I haven't seen that. I look forward to seeing that.
I could show you after this, yeah, if you want.
And she wasn't sort of, she was determined she just wasn't going to let you in regardless.
Nah, she just point blank refused. But then there was another woman who was letting people in and out still, right in front of my eyes. And I was just like, can I go back in? I've left my jacket in there, and then I started.
You went to the other woman?
No, to another woman, yeah. And then she wouldn't let me back in. So I was just very stubborn, and then I just went, right, I'm informing your
employees.
Employers. And then she just went, I don't really care. And just stared at me. So I've just got loads of photos of a female policewoman now.
I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah. It's nothing exciting really, it's just the same.
But was there a sense of despondency after the match, or were you able to just forget about it and just go and have a few beers and enjoy it?
No, I just went at the KFC, and then I sat in a beer garden with loads of Germans watching us get pumped, which was obviously shite. And then
you did see some of the match then?
I watched the whole game in a beer garden.
Oh, right, okay, I didn't realise that.
Just standing on my own.
And you were with your brothers Nicky and Johnny. They just didn't know where you were then?
No, they were in the fan zone. They knew fine well where I was. I knew where they were.
How did they know though? Because I thought you said your phone was out of charge.
No, that was at another point.
Oh, right, okay.
That was later on in the evening, I believe, or the night before. Anyway, it was all a bit of a blur.
Your memory's a bit hazy.
A wee bit Alzheimer's.
Yeah, just more young boy drinking too much.
yeah. There's always that. So.
And then you went to Cologne with just with Nicky because Johnny had to go home. Had to go back.
Yes, but one of my brothers went home. He'd also got a little e-scooter injury.
Oh, that's
so he was. I was doing some stunts, so I went down these like a stair set. Yeah, it was about 6 stairs. I was flying down them, but I had to.
I'm really glad you didn't tell me that beforehand.
I knew exactly what I had to do, so it was going full pelt, which is 30 kilometres an hour, and then when you arrive to the stairs, you just kind of ease off on the lever a little bit, and then once you're on the stairs, you just fly again. But I didn't really explain this method at all. I just kind of watched him do what he was doing, and then my friend Kyle did the same thing. He tried to clear the whole set of stairs and just simply landed on his elbow. He's had a bit of trouble. It's a little troubled elbow, so that was almost broken. It was a big fat elbow. And then Johnny did the same thing, but he fell off the scooter and then just kept running. Now one of those comical falls where you think he just keeps fucking going, and then he just lamped his head right off a big lamppost. A big bulging cut, I suppose, with blood coming out of it. But luckily he's got a wee fringe, so he covered that back up, and then he was like, right, I want to go home. And I said, no, we're going to the pub. And we went to the pub, and he covered up his cut.
He told me that it was a day later he came out, his face swelled up or something, didn't it?
Yeah, well, it was, yeah.
It's scary.
Head first into a lamppost, so. Then we went to the bar after and had a couple more beers. And then he actually
So
ended up
you
giving another
you didn't really need the football at all, did you? You could have just gone to
No, I could have just been there, really. I actually did. I had
football
no
was a side issue.
I had no idea the Euros was even on. I was just there. It just turned out I was in Cologne and Munich at the same time.
So would you go if Scotland qualify in 4 years' time? Will you go to where is that the one in America? Or?
The next Euros?
Yeah.
I believe it's. I don't think the Euros in America now.
Give me a figure, please.
You're losing
Get my brain working again. No, that's the one in Ireland, England, and Scotland. Wales,
I think so. Yeah, the next one's in UK. So yeah, I'll probably be in UK for it, funnily enough, because I live here.
Yeah, I know, but but it won't be all in Glasgow, though, will it?
No.
Don't be cheeky.
No, sorry. But no, I'll probably go.
My podcast, so
This is my ball. I'm going home.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know I might go to the World Cup in America. That'd be quite fun.
So when is that? Is that 2 years then?
That's 2026 it will be.
That's the one that's all over Canada and Mexico.
Yeah, Canada, US, and Mexico. So that'd be great fun. I don't think if the Germans weren't prepared for the Scots, then I don't think the Americans will be.
I don't think they'd even know who you are now.
No, they'd just be fucking
They'd probably just think you're
perplexed,
from somewhere in South America or something.
Aye. So Mexico, that would be great fun.
That would be good,
Canada would be good as well, but
yeah, that'd be a different culture.
And America, but I just don't think they'd really be prepared for the Scots either at all. Probably wouldn't even be serving pints.
Maybe you should go on social media and warn them beforehand.
Aye, maybe.
You're forgetting that they've not qualified yet.
They haven't qualified yet. I did say if they qualified.
Yeah, but we're assuming that Scotland will qualify, which they haven't done at all in my lifetime for a World Cup.
They might have found a striker by then.
Aye, right, yeah.
Hopefully.
He's actually fit and not injured.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Good at football, maybe even. You never know.
And as I said, we are recording this before the English match. If England do go through, just assume they do. I'm not saying. Really hope they do, but should England go through, do you think they're going to win, or who do you think is going to win the Euros?
Well,
if you had to put your life savings on it.
I had to put my life savings on it.
No, I'll put it another way. You had to put your next month's salary on it.
Aye, because that is my life savings. If I had to put the 200 quid that I'm going to borrow off my mum when I get paid next month, I would say Portugal, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think they're going to win, yeah?
I think, yeah.
Really?
I don't see anyone else much better than them. Maybe Germany, but France could also do it potentially.
Producer's writing down something, or is he just drawing something?
I don't know what he's up to.
What did he write down?
Georgia are beating Spain.
Georgia, we're playing Spain later. I don't think. No, I can't see them beating Spain.
I can see Georgia beating Spain.
I can't see them beating Spain. No.
2-1.
You think?
I think Georgia will beat Spain 2-1. Really? Well.
Yeah, no, I can't see Georgia beating them. I think Spain are.
I think you're right. Yeah.
The only team. No, they're only one of the only top teams that have actually been performing so far. Even Portugal were good, but I don't know if. Ronaldo's about nearly 40 now. So
he can't do it on his own, can he?
Anymore.
Think you like Figueroa?
I don't think Ronaldo like Figueroa.
We should send him a packet of Figueroas.
We could do, yeah.
Can you settle an argument, please, Cristiano?
I think he's probably more of a raw egg and running for 40 minutes straight sort of guy. Don't know if he even eats, to be honest.
I can't imagine him eating a biscuit. No. He doesn't look like a biscuit man.
No. I can't imagine him gouching on a couch with a biscuit. It's just not a very Ronaldo-like.
No. Well, it sounds like you had a good time anyway.
Ronaldo?
No, you did.
I had a good time.
I don't know whether Ronaldo did or not. I don't really care whether he had a good time or not.
I just messed him and asked him.
Yeah, we do mess him, yeah.
Aye.
Did you know I'm doing a competition, by the way? I'm sure I told you about the competition I'm doing. About I put out a sort of a competition to listeners that if anybody guessed the correct amount of times Ali McGoist would say, I got a C, that they would win a copy of my, a signed free copy of my book.
Right, yeah.
So, do you want to have a guess yourself? How many would you say, so far up to now, how many times did you say he said, I got to say?
How many times has he already done it?
So far, yeah.
So he's probably, he's only commentating some of the games, isn't he? Maybe one a day, is it?
I don't know, it kind of varies, I don't know. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he isn't.
I'll go with 37.
Well, I suppose you're not too far out, it has to be
No.
said. I just see what the present is. Present's 23.
Yeah, okay.
But you're saying as of now rather than at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you might be there.
Oh, we could go with 37 at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe that's.
You don't probably want a free signed copy of my book anyway, do you?
No, I've already got a couple in the house, so I'm not bothered. I could give it away. Try and punt it on
That's
Byers
true.
Road.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
do that too.
Stand holding it like a big issue.
Can you do a Scottish? I mean, I said I've got to say, but it's probably I'm doing my Irish accent. How would you say it in Ali McCoy's voice?
I've got to say,
Yeah, that's much better. Yeah.
and the big fella there, he's absolutely brilliant. That's probably what I'd go for.
Got to say,
Something along
Clive.
those
That's
lines.
very good. Yeah. Much better than
thanks.
mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how it pans out. As I say, thanks for coming on. By the way, thanks for chatting. You were
Yeah, not a problem.
you were
When do I get paid?
for Tuesday,
Right, no worries.
depending on my bank account. I don't know.
Aye.
But yeah, I'll update you on the. I say we have 23 is the amount of times you said it so far, which means some of you have entered. I think there's only 2 of you are. In fact, I forgot to get my sheet. Hold on a sec. Yes, here we are. Yeah, only 2 of you are out of the competition. That's Whump, who's guessed 21, so you're gone, and also the Tourette's in my head, who guessed 12, and you're out of the competition as well.
Peculiar name.
And Andrew T is on the brink of 23. So Ali McCoist, if you want to win Andrew, Ali McCoist can't say I've got to say. Sorry,
Never
Jerry, you
again.
say it again. You say it again because I still can't do it properly.
Huh? I've got to say.
That's it. It's more the deep voice. You've got a deeper voice than me, which is a bit strange being my son.
I don't think I do. I'm just putting it on for this podcast so I don't sound silly when I listen back. Sound like a wee girl usually.
Yeah.
I've got
Okay,
to
but
say.
I've got to say, but yes, we won't hear the result of the competition for another 2 weeks because you'll hear later in the episode why we're only putting the podcast out every 2 weeks for the next couple of months. But I won't explain it again. But you'll hear about the end of the episode why I'm not putting out another episode till 2 weeks, and we'll have the result of the Ali McCoist competition then. And thanks again, all of you who entered so far. I was reminded recently of a program that used to be on RTE television in Ireland when I was still living over there. It was called Reading in the Ears. Now, there was also a similar program on BBC called Rock and Roll Years. They both had the exact same format. I think the BBC one actually came out before the one on RTE. And I'll just give you an example of what the format of it was. It was it's centred on one particular year, sort of like 1985, 1986, and so on. And the year I'm going to be talking about is 1985. But the format of the show was they would show news clips from that year. I mean, they would only show for about 2 or 3 minutes with an explanation underneath of what the news item was about, and it would be overplayed by music from that era. They play music over the news item. And it was a really good show because it never got boring because the news items only lasted about 2 or 3 minutes, so you wouldn't get bored. And also they played some really, really good music, and it kind of was quite nostalgic, and it could remind you of the way music reminds you of some sort of thing that happened in your life. And it was a really, really good show. I don't know why they don't still keep doing it. But the year I'm going to centre on is 1985, from Reading in the Ears, the Irish version, that is. And, this particular year, it was all about, in Ireland anyway, about moving statues of the Virgin Mary. Now, I thought this was, a big thing around the world. I thought everybody would have heard about this because it was such a ludicrous phenomenon, the statues of the Virgin Mary moving. But I've since spoken, I live in Glasgow, as you know, and I've spoken to people in Glasgow, who are over 40, over 50, who I thought would have been familiar with it, but none of them had even heard about it, which is very strange. It just shows you how much, the world has moved on, because if that was nowadays, with the internet, everybody around the world would know about it. But what happened was I think it was 2 or 3 teenagers. They were walking by one of the shrines, where the Virgin Mary stands in a shrine, and they were sure they saw facial movements from the Virgin Mary, like her smiling or scratching her nose or something. A ludicrous concept, and everybody thought they were just having a laugh. It was just teenagers having a prank. But they were questioned by the local priest and even by the local police, and they genuinely believed that the Virgin's face had moved, that she kind of moved her face and made some expression on her face. And it was a ludicrous concept, and I think well, I hope 98% of people in Ireland thought it was a lot of nonsense. In fact, I'm fairly sure they did because I lived in Ireland at the time, and most people thought it was a lot of nonsense. But there was that small percentage of people who actually believed in it. And once it came out in the news, then other people started going to other shrines and saying, I'm sure I saw her move, and another person said, I saw tears coming from her eye. And it was obviously an optical illusion, maybe when, because the shrines are usually, there's usually trees around them, and maybe the sun was shining some way and it created a shadow going across her face or something. But a few people actually got hysterical about it. There was one particular shrine, I think it was in County Wicklow, where people actually used to make a pilgrimage. They would actually bring tents with them to this shrine and binoculars, like they were sort of like astronomers or people who are interested in astronomy do with telescopes. They're actually camping outside the shrine, hoping to see the Virgin's face move. And there was, I presume it was kind of created by a sense of hysteria, because I remember asking one person I knew, well, it wasn't a friend of mine, thankfully, but they said they went down to the shrine. They said they didn't believe that the Virgin, the statue, had moved, but they said when they got there, they sensed that there was something going on. And I said, what do you mean by something? And they couldn't answer. So it was basically, I think, mass hysteria for those that were watching it. And the other thing I noticed that although her face moved, is alleged to have moved on the statue, that it's a bit strange why she never actually moved herself. I mean, if she was standing there for 50 or 100 years, she would have got a bit restless, and maybe if she was able to move, maybe wander down to the local shops or go for a swim or something like that, and go to Mrs. McGee's and ask for a Kit Kat. But she never moved from her spot, the poor old Virgin. But it was a big thing. I think there was also I think it happened again. She waited for another 12 years before she moved again. I think it was in 1997, because I did a feature on Brass Eye, which was presented by Chris Morris, in which I played the local local parish priest who was talking about the statue moving and being driven around the village in a car or something like that. But so it obviously happened again 12 years later. But it was all just a lot of bloody nonsense as far as I'm concerned. But speaking about the Virgin Mary, though, it actually reminded me that I'm probably the only comedian or performer whose career has been adversely affected by the Virgin Mary herself. And I'll tell you why. I've mentioned earlier that about my book, Amen, Older Brother of Jesus. Now, the book is actually an adaptation of a show I did for Radio 4, BBC Radio 4, also called Amen, Older Brother of Jesus. And the main reason I brought the book out was because the show was banned by BBC Radio 4. Now, Glenn, it was originally commissioned by a guy called Jonathan James Moore, who was the comedy commissioner of Radio 4 at the time, and he loved the show, and he commissioned me to write it. He's one of those lovely old Cambridge guys who sort of wore, a corduroy jacket with leather patches at the elbows, that kind of thing. But he really loved the show, and he commissioned me to write the whole episode, which I did, and we recorded it all in the BBC studios in Oxford Street. Yes, it was in Oxford Street. I think it still is there. I'm not sure. I think they've modernised it, but it was the original BBC studio in Oxford Street. Now, about 3 months later, Jonathan James Moore, he'd retired in the meantime, and he'd been replaced as the Radio 4 comedy commissioner by a guy called James Boyle, who was a Scottish Catholic. Those 4 words sound horrible. James Boyle, Scottish Catholic. But anyway, this was only about a week before it was due to go out on Radio 4, and he was looking through the Radio Times that list all the TV and radio shows, and he saw this show, which was due to go out at 11:15, I think, on a Friday night, called Amen, Older Brother of Jesus. And being a Catholic, he thought this sort of, he just got a little bit alarmed, and he asked to hear the tapes, as it were. Tapes then, that was what, 1995, I think. So there were actually tapes rather than anything else. That's how fucking old it was. But he listened to the tapes, and he decided the show was blasphemous. Now, the thing is that I'm not worried about being blasphemous, because I've no religion myself, but the point is that if it was just blasphemous, it wouldn't be that funny. I mean, if you just doing blasphemous jokes all the time, it'd be a funny joke, but not a 15-minute sitcom each time. The whole thrust of the show was that it was about sibling rivalry. And it was even accentuated by the fact that, Jesus had an older brother. An older brother. Sorry, I got that wrong. The older brother, Amen, his brother was... I was going to start that again, but fuck it, I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to carry on. It was accentuated by the fact that Amen had a younger brother who was also the Messiah. So that really sort of emphasized or accentuated the sibling rivalry. And that was the whole joke. The thrust of the sitcom. It's supposed to be 6 15-minute episodes. But James Ball decided it wasn't going out on Radio 4, and he banned it. But I actually heard later, and I couldn't believe this, if it had happened in RTE in Ireland, I would have thought, yeah, I can see why, but it's par for the course. But I was told the reason it wasn't going out was because if Jesus had an older brother, therefore Mary couldn't have been a virgin. It was like something from medieval times. I couldn't believe this was happening in London, which I thought was, much more sort of open-minded than good old Dublin or Ireland, if you like. But that was the reason I was given for why the show was banned by James Ball. But maybe they will recommission it someday. Who knows? But that's the reason I wrote the book anyway, because it was the original sitcom was banned by the BBC. But all this is sort of. I haven't forgotten that I had a Catholic upbringing. Obviously, you don't forget something like that. But it's kind of reminded me of lots of the things of when I was being brought up as a Catholic. Now, my parents weren't. They weren't. I suppose can I use the word extreme Catholic? Is there such a thing as an extreme Catholic? I suppose there is. Fanatical. They weren't fanatical. Put it that way. They were. Fairly devout. We had to go to mass every Sunday, and confession every week, that kind of thing. I think it was confession every second week. I think could be wrong. I don't know. We had to confess your sins to the local parish priest, who probably thought about them later at night. Who knows? We didn't know that at the time, though. But it was. It was a Catholic upbringing. I remember we used to have to say prayers. When you're a kid, you had to sort of kneel by your bedside and say your prayers every night. And the prayers would basically be asking God to look after your family and friends and your aunties and uncles and cousins. It would go on for about 10 fucking minutes, asking God to look after Auntie Maggie and your cousin Sean and so on. And you'd be kneeling there for about 10 minutes, imploring God to look after everybody you knew. I was just thinking, it's no wonder I've got fucking bad knees after all that. And it's another actually thing. I wonder, has any sort of doctors studied the fact that maybe Catholics get their knees fucked up earlier than any other religion? All that fucking kneeling. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a little thesis on myself, a paper of sort of like Catholics and early knee decay. I don't know. But anyway, you used to have to say your prayers every night. And the reason I mention prayers is because that's with regard to prayers, that was the first time I sort of thought to myself, there is no God, because I think I was about 9 or 10 years old, I think, and I've been praying it was my birthday coming up, and I've been praying about 3 or 4 nights before, at the end of the uncle and aunties and family thing, to ask God to send me a rally bicycle. I can't remember what sort of model it was, but it was a state-of-the-art rally bicycle which I wanted for my birthday. And I'd been praying 3 nights before my birthday. My birthday came anyway, but I didn't. I didn't get a rally bike. I got this battered old second-hand scooter with a wobbly wheel. I think it was handed down from some cousin of mine. And it was after that I realised that either there is no God, or if there is, he's just taking the fucking piss. I think that was the start of my atheistic period, if that's such a term. But people did used to pray a lot. I remember when I was younger. You'd hear these old biddies at bus stops or in the local shop saying, "Yeah, I'm heading down to church now just to pray to God that my daughter Angela will get a job in the bank. I'm heading down now because she deserves it, because she studied she's got all her exams and everything. She deserves a job in the bank, and that'll be a job for life. It would suit her perfectly. So hopefully God will sort that out for us." And you think that if there is a God that has any influence on earth, he's unlikely to be concerned about whether Angela O'Grady gets a job in the Bank of Ireland. He could be more concerned about sorting out famines and wars and pestilence, all that kind of thing. But apparently not. Having said that, though, I just realised Angela O'Grady did get a job in the Bank of Ireland, and there's still wars and famines going on. So maybe Mrs. O'Grady knew the way through to God. If you just all he's interested is in job applications, and he doesn't give a shit about famines and wars. Who knows? I'm just going to take a break now for a drink of water, if you just hold on a minute. There we are, we're back. It is just water, it's not vodka, I swear. So, that was the story. Mrs. O'Grady and praying and all that sort of nonsense. But I remember in school, as I said, my parents weren't strict, but in school we were told that masturbation, they didn't call it masturbation, by the way, they called it self-abuse. If you masturbated, they considered masturbation a mortal sin. We were told it was a mortal sin. Now, if you committed a mortal sin, like masturbation, for example, and then died without confessing it to a priest in confession, you would go straight to hell, eternal flames. Was it worth a wank for that? I don't know. But the thing is, I mean, that was when we were 13 or 14, and none of us really actually believed that. I mean, we were a bit more sophisticated than that. But if something is drilled into you all your life, there is that 1% of niggling doubt. Fuck, what if I do have a wank and I end up for eternity in hell? So my mate myself, Beamish, is a great name, dead now, but never mind. Myself and my mate Beamish, it was more just for a bit of devilment rather than anything else, but there was still that 1%. But what we used to do was we used to masturbate inside the confessional while confessing the sin at the same time, and that covered you at both ends, it was all grand. And a bit of fun as well, it has to be said. But I was thinking about all the religion thing recently, and I just thought, I'd imagine if Christianity had never existed, because it could have been quite possible. Because if you're brought up as a Christian, you're told that God sent His only Son down to earth, to the Middle East, a bit of a hotbed at the best of times, it has to be said. But imagine if Jesus hadn't been born in the Middle East. Say he'd been born in somewhere like Belgium. Could have been a different matter altogether, couldn't it? Because he'd be wandering around Belgium saying, I'm the Messiah, I can give you life everlasting, and blessed are the meek, and all this stuff. And the Belgians wouldn't give a fuck; they just ignore him, And he'd say, no, I trust me, I am the Messiah. I can perform miracles, for example. And the Belgians say, okay, well then, give us an example of one of your miracles. And he'd say, well, I can change water into wine. And the Belgians would be saying, we're more beer drinkers here, really. It's no use to us. And they'd be laughing at him. And he'd have to go over his tail between his legs. And they'd be sniggering amongst themselves, saying, that's the son of the mad woman who lives up the road, who thinks that she's still a virgin. So if he'd gone to Belgium, there mightn't be any Christianity. That would be fucking brilliant, wouldn't it? What are the chances? So I'd just like to finish on a little bit as I mentioned before, I've lived in either Scotland or England for the last nearly 40 years now. But any time I tell people in Britain that I was brought up as a Catholic in Ireland in the 60s and 70s, people often say to me, what's it like having sex with an archbishop? And I say, sure, I don't know. He was only a priest when I knew him. And I've actually told that joke to a nun once. And she was so fucking upset, she put her habit straight back on and stormed out of the bedroom. No sense of humour, nuns. Now, if you listen to the last couple of episodes, you'll know that I decided to drop in a joke in each episode from some of my favourite comedians over the years, because I've done stand-up for over 35 years. And I did do that. I've dropped in a joke last week and the week before in each episode. But then I had a little think about it. I thought it would make it even better if we introduced a little new section, a bit more exciting, where I actually talk about the comedian in question rather than just telling one of the jokes. Sorry, look, when I saw them for the first gig I saw them doing, gigs I've done with them over the years maybe, or also probably more importantly than anything else, sort of what is it about the comedian that actually makes me laugh? What is it I like about them in particular? And also maybe talk about what they're up to at the moment. So this week I'd like to start off with the one and only, the brilliant Mr. Gavin Webster. Now the first time I saw Gavin was, I think it was I can't be the exact date, I think it was 1998. It was in Harrogate in North Yorkshire. Well, I think it's in Yorkshire, it could be Lancashire anyway, it's not relevant to the story. Right, that's the first time I saw him. It wasn't a normal comedy gig. I think it might have been a benefit gig for something, because there was about 10 comedians on the bill, and we were all doing 5 or 10 minutes each. But that was the first time I saw Gavin, and I was literally blown away by his material and his delivery, everything about him. I just thought, this guy is really special, and anytime I've seen him since, he's always been brilliant. I've never seen him dying on his arse. I'm sure he has. Every comedian does die on their arse at some point, but anytime I've seen Gavin, he always storms it, because he is just an incredibly, very, very, very funny man. Now, if you're not familiar with Gavin, what I advise you to do is go to YouTube, because he has about 5 or 6 clips of his stand-up on YouTube, and none of them are particularly long. They're only about sort of 4 or 5 minutes. But each of them are brilliant, and I'll give you a taste of what Gavin's about, though. So what I should say, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons I love Gavin so much is because he's from Newcastle, but the geordie accent and stand-up comedy, to me, are a gift made in heaven. They just sort of mix so well together. But if you go to YouTube, you'll hear his clips, and in particular, a clip about the extinction of pandas, which is quite famous amongst us comedians, but maybe not in the general public aren't aware of it. But it's an absolutely brilliant routine, and it's so brilliant that I think a couple of TV comics have tried to rip it off. Obviously not as good as Gavin, because they haven't got a geordie accent, and that's what really makes it, in my view. But do go to his YouTube channel and you'll see some of his clips. They are absolutely brilliant. I'll just give you a couple of examples of how the sort of Geordie accent enhances a joke. I mean, for example, if Gavin says the word loads, like L-O-A-D-S, it's a lot funnier than I would say it. If I said loads, it's just a word leading up to something else. But when he says loads, the word loads, it's almost a joke in itself. So he says something like loads. Or if he says the word blokes, it'd be blokes. So it's even funny in itself. That's why the accent sort of accentuates the joke in my view. So have a listen to yourself and you'll find out exactly what I mean. But the other thing about it, Gavin, he's not. His main thing is stand-up comedy, but he also can. He's also a very good writer and a very good actor because he's actually written his own sitcom, which is out on Amazon Prime. He's written 3 episodes of it called "I've Got a Job for You, Gav," and it's absolutely brilliant. I've listened to all 3 of them, and they are all brilliant. And in my view, as good as, if not a lot better than some of the sitcoms you see on television. And I'm just amazed that no TV channel has ever commissioned him for it. But so far they haven't, but maybe they will in time. I don't know. Hopefully, because he is absolutely brilliant. But if he is coming to your town, he's still gigging all over the place. So if he is coming to your town, do go and see him. He's highly recommended, and I can assure you, you will not be disappointed. And I have mentioned that if someone like me tried to do one of Gavin's routines, if you haven't got a Geordie accent, it just doesnn't really work. I mean, it's just not the same. But I'm actually going to give it a go. I'm not noted for my skills in mimicry, but I'm going to tell one of Gavin's jokes and try and do it in a Geordie accent. It could be disastrous, could be not, but I apologise in advance. But he was doing a gig in Liverpool anyway, and he came out on stage and said, "Good evening, Liverpool." Then he says, "Is it true the Beatles are from here?" And all the audience go crazy and cheering and everything. And he just says, "Because you never fucking mention it, do you?" I think it's just a brilliant line. And the audience, even though they were pulled down having sort of, "Yeah, the Beatles are from here," they accepted it because they knew it was just such a bloody good joke, and it is. But that is the thing about Gavin. I say, some comedians have great material, but not all of them have funny bones. I mean, you could hear a comedian. I'm just speaking generically, or whatever the word is. That I'm not talking about any comedian in particular, but they can have great material, and still be very good, but not as funny as if their accent was something like Gavin's or from somewhere else. It's just not quite the same. But that is the beauty of Gavin, as I say. It's not just the jokes. It's his accent, and he's got a great face for comedy as well, and his mannerisms, and it just makes the whole thing. It is absolutely brilliant. So do catch him if you can. Now, I have mentioned before, I think, the Edinburgh Fringe. Some of you, either maybe in Australia or America or even parts of Britain, may not be aware of what the Edinburgh Fringe is. But the Edinburgh Fringe is part of the Edinburgh International Arts Festival, which is actually one of the biggest festivals in the world. And Gavin is doing a show this year. In fact, he does a show almost every year. He's been doing a show, I think, for the last 7 or 8 years at the Edinburgh Fringe. It's a new show each time. Not that it matters with Gavin, because I could actually listen to him doing an hour of material I heard before and still laugh just as much. But he does a new show every year at the Edinburgh Fringe. So if you are in Edinburgh between the 1st of August and the 25th of August, do catch him. He's at the Stand Comedy Club in York Place from the 1st of August to the 25th of August, apart from the 12th. I think he's not there on the 12th. And the show starts at 5:30 every evening, so go along. You will not be disappointed, trust me. So that's about it for this week. As you know, we normally put an episode out every week. This is episode 11, and more or less been putting it out every week since we started. But I have a bit of an announcement to make. I suppose I call it a big-ish announcement, in that I've been offered a part as an actor in a Netflix series, Darling, which is being filmed over July, August, and maybe bits of September. So I think it'd be just a bit too difficult to get an episode out every week. You don't want to just put an episode out just for the sake of it. I'd rather have quality than quantity. So the next episode, which will be episode 12, will be coming out in 2 weeks' time. So hopefully you listen in, and I'll see you then. Thanks. All the best. Bye-bye.